What's up, Amazon sellers? Today, I'm super excited to be able to bring you an interview with a wholesaler who is absolutely smashing the game and someone that I followed for a while, but also as well, I'm very interested in his mindset and the way he approached it and to learn about his story. It's Alex, none other than FBA Boys, and I'm interested to see what he can share to help you and myself on our Amazon journeys. Stay tuned. Okay, so today I'm super excited to learn about someone who's doing the wholesale game, but also as well is doing some extra bits on the side. And I'm interested to have a debate between, should we say, that other side hustle or the other parts in the Amazon game and the wholesale, and also learn more about their journey. Alex from the FBA Boys, should we say, on Instagram. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and also spending time with me. If anyone doesn't know who you are happy to introduce yourself and say a little bit about your journey so far?
Yeah, my name's Alex. I'm FBA Boys on Instagram. We've been selling on Amazon since 2017. We have been mainly right into wholesale. We really didn't know anything about OA. We started this business with $500 back when I was about 21 years old, and kind of grew it, compound, and grew it from there.
My God. And if you don't mind me asking, right now, top line revenues, let's say last year, for example, are you happy to share that?
Yeah, so last year we did about 3 million. With this year, our plan is to hit 4 or 5 million in revenue. January, we did about 415,000. February, we just did shy of 400K. So we're on the trajectory of hitting that 4 or 5 goal.
My God. And if you don't mind me asking, so you started with 500, last year did 3 million, obviously looking to do 4 million, should we say, which is absolutely incredible. I'd like to come back to that and ask a little bit more around like what that journey looked like. But can I ask you just where are you located in the world? And obviously you said you're doing wholesale, but you're doing OA as well, is that correct?
We'll do a little bit of OA. Sometimes there's, stuff that I've seen that a lot of people are pushing and try to get some of that action. It doesn't hurt, but you have to be careful with OA. You have to be careful that the brand is okay with it. A lot of the cases, Lululemon might not want all these sellers selling their bags. So you have to take things into consideration.
And kind of why, obviously I do OA, I'm an OA seller, but I'm interested, when I look at wholesalers, I see a lot of people going from OA out of OA into wholesale. Why do you still do the OA side? Why look, man, there's always the grass is greener, let's not do it.
Yeah. The biggest issue I think is OA is mainly the order limits. I've heard that people can get larger quantities, but it involves VAs ordering stuff from overseas, and then the invoice gets a little choppy. And then, if you have an issue with Amazon or if someone claims counterfeit, you're going to run into issues, and I know some of these brands that people sell OA, the brand will reach out to them and saying, hey, you're not an authorized seller, please get off the listing. And that's just something we don't really want to deal with.
Can I ask you? Go on, so Karen.
Yeah, we're really more focused on brand direct stuff. We like building a relationship with the brand and being able to communicate with them daily, keep a good relationship, build the relationship, and build the brand.
Can I ask the question? You talked about brand direct, which I think is really interesting. I've learned quite a bit around that. If anyone doesn't know what is brand direct, what does that mean?
So brand direct is mainly when you're working directly with the brand and you plan to sell it on Amazon. For example, like the Lululemon, we would want to work directly with Lululemon in order to sell their products online. You could get it from a distributor, but ultimately your best price is with the brand.
You said you did 3 billion last year. Are you happy to share maybe the percentage or the percentage of brands that you sell which are brand direct? Because I know from my understanding, brand direct is the golden, wow, working with the brand directly, obviously you get the best price. That's what everyone's aiming for. But I'm interested to see kind of if you're happy to share the revenue split or the brand split, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we I would say we're 70% brand direct, 30% distributor. And when people say brand direct, they think that we're calling Procter & Gamble and we're selling Head & Shoulders or something like that. Our main focus is smaller brands that people have no idea that they even exist. Our biggest success have been reaching out to the niche brands that, such as a hockey tape, and contacting the brand. The owner picks up the phone, not even a sales rep, and we place an order with him and we build a relationship with him. That's where we find our most success, is the stuff that's selling very well, but is not a household item, is not a brand, something that we're not selling Celsius seltzer, we're not just selling, even Little Trees. Those kind of household names are not really of interest to us.
What made you decide to go down that route? Because in my mind, it sounds quite easy. This is what a lot of people talk about when they talk about wholesale brand direct, go after the small ones, not the Procter & Gambles. Yeah. But how did you learn about it and why that? Why not do the distribution route with the big Procter & Gambles? That's a lot more volume, I'm guessing. Why not do that?
We work with a couple distributors, but what we've kind of done is that we'll open a distribution account, and then we'll start contacting those brands from the distribution account and say, hey, so-and-so, we're working with this distributor. I think it makes a lot more sense to go direct. And then when you mention that distributor name, they understand that you have knowledge in the space and that you kind of know exactly what you're talking about, opposed to just calling them, say, hey, we want to open an account and we're looking to make a bunch of money. When you're able to go to a brand and drop distributors you've worked with and that you've seen the products before and you've sold the products before, it's going to give you that leverage to open that account.
Wow. No, it's interesting because you talk about, everyone talks about doing brand direct, and that was an interesting one, like using the distributor's name to get in. I think that's quite a good trick, or should we say like a good trick? I say like it's all part of the thing. One thing I'm really interested, especially around brand direct, and I'd love just to kind of ask this, is are you happy to share like a funnel? And what do I mean by funnel? I mean how many brands you contact, how many are willing to talk, and then how many you actually work with. Should we say relationships, if that makes sense? Because it seems like the golden goose, but I appreciate it's a numbers game as well. It's
100%. And I do have some students and people that I do one-on-one with, and this is exactly what we go over. I basically tell them you need to be contacting 30 to 40 brands a day for the next 30 days. And there's a lot, you might have to take away from your OA business while you're doing this, but it's going to pay off. Out of the 40 you contact, you might have one or two that's good.
Wow.
But you run with those, and they're long-term contacts. And we've even kind of started working with brands and then met them at trade shows to really say, hey, we're buying with you already. And that has been interesting because there's so many people that are going up to the brand during the trade show. Oh, we want to work with you. We want to work with you. When you go up to them and say, hey, we're working with you guys. It's great to finally meet you. It kind of seals the deal. And then it seals the deal to lead to other things like brand, getting an exclusive with them and being the sole seller of their product. That's the end goal of working with brand direct, is to somehow talk to them into brand exclusivity.
I'm just doing some rough math. You talked about maybe one out of 40, so roughly, let's call it 2%, for example.
Yeah.
Of the brands that you buy from directly, can I ask what are the rough percentages that you might do exclusive? Because that is like the golden egg, isn't it?
We have like maybe one account we do an exclusive with.
Okay.
And that's it. There's a lot of accounts we have where there's about 5 other FBA guys, and that's it. And that's kind of because we reached out to them 4 years ago. They were open to working with us, and then they closed the doors. And that's the bread and butter. Some of those accounts I was able to land because they were local. I was able to drive. I was able to talk to them in person. And I was able to pick up the product because it was a lot easier. They said, oh, we don't do any shipping. We don't do any of that. And I said, oh, we'll pick it up. And that gave us basically a little edge. And I was able to meet them and kind of establish that relationship, where now our next focus is kind of bringing that ranking down and making sure everyone's getting sales.
Wow, no, I love that. And thank you for your honesty about that. I think, like, should we say in the Instagram space or the social media space, it's like, just secured another exclusive deal. Like, it seems like they're happening every day, and you're like, hey, I'm doing 3 million a year, and like one of my things are exclusive. And when I call like 900 suppliers, 2% of them actually work. So that sounds really hard work.
What you see on Instagram is pretty, interesting. I love when I see, just call up Fiji or Logitech and open up a wholesale account with them. Like, I can guarantee you nobody's doing that and nobody's landing that.
Yeah, I've done it in the UK. I've opened up we used to do a lot of public sector procurement. So we opened up accounts with like Dell, HP.
Really?
You don't actually deal with them. Yeah, you deal with they have like a person, and then you buy from the distributor. But you have fixed pricing. And by the way, there is no margin. There is literally Amazon's cheaper than the distributor. You're like, because the distributor charges more and you get rebates from the manufacturers back in credits. That's how you make your money. And it's like, oh my God. It's like volume game. So it's like, no.
A lot of guys that are selling that stuff that are making money on it are getting like closeout deals or deals that are one-offs that are able to find that margin. Because, if you, for example, call up JBL, which Harman Kardon owns, you're not going to get good pricing, even if you open the account. Yeah. But, if you have a distributor that maybe pulls it from South America and there's some leverage and there's a currency change, that's where you're going to find the margin.
No, I agree. So you touched upon an interesting point just a minute ago. You said, I have students and I teach them this. And you said, it's going to detract from your OA game. And hey, I'm an OA seller right now. And I'm like, man, I don't want to detract from my OA game. Like, tell me about that. Like, what are the common objections that you hear when you're like talking to people? Like, this is number one, why are you doing this strategy? And then number two, what do you say to people who are like, no, I like my OA game? Like, what are your thoughts? And by the way, I'm open. I'm not here to say one way or the other.
I love OA, and OA gets a lot of press on Instagram, but it's what I tell people, it's a constant hustle. You're constantly looking for the next item. You're constantly dealing with order cancellations. It's just not something I'm interested in. You can spend a whole day looking for OA products and you maybe got 100 selling units with, ordering 8 pieces here or 10 pieces there. Meanwhile, I can take 5 minutes and contact a brand and put in a 40, 50 grand PO. And it took me 5-10 minutes. And, there's a relationship established. There's a long-term effect that, we're going to be selling this long term. Certain brands have MAP agreements, so we know that we're going to make money on this, that everyone's at the same price. With OA, you see a lot of people, a lot of new guys, they get on the OA listing, they're not getting sales, they tank the price, they're getting nervous, they have to pay their credit card, and then they say, all right, I'm willing to lose $1 a unit, I just need to move the products. So you see these huge cliff drop-offs in the Keepa with OA stuff, and that's just, it's not fun. It's not fun racing to the bottom. It's so much easier when you talk to the brand and say, hey, if I take one piece, is my price going to be any different than if I take a container? And so you can really figure out who I'm competing with, what the price they're getting, and do I have to worry about someone undercutting me? The two things I mention in my coaching stuff is when you open a brand or a distributor, you want to ask 2 things. You want to ask, what's the tier pricing look like? And what's the freight? Is it free freight to my location? Are you guys local enough where you can deliver for free? These are all the competitive advantages you have to figure out before getting into an order, because you want to make sure that that large seller is not going to be able to undercut you. And you said, oh, I bought this item from the brand direct. How is this guy undercutting me? Maybe because he took 6 or 7 pallets and you're taking a couple cases. So those are the questions you want to ask these brands specifically, is what type of tier discounts can I get with an order volume? You might not want to mention it on the first order, but it's something that you need to turn the conversation to, once you're in your first, second, third order. And once you get past that kind of first order, they understand that you're legit, that you're looking to buy. On that second order, you should be really considering asking them about tier discounts, because that's going to make or break competing with all these big guys like Oxcom, Galactic Shop, all these guys that have basically an unlimited bankroll, and they're willing to hold stock for years. So those are the big things you need to focus on when reaching direct with brands.
Look, I'm not an expert in the wholesale space at all. I understand conceptually. When you talk about tier pricing, is that basically you're talking discounts on order volumes? Would that be correct? So the more you order, the cheaper it becomes.
Exactly. Yeah. We were working with a brand that I was trying to haggle down on price, and they basically said the price is $8 if you take 1 or if you take 3 pallets. And that kind of gave me the ability. Then I went back to the listing and I said, all right, people are making 50 cents on this item. And I went back to the brand and say, they swore to me, that's the price everyone's getting. At that point, people were just liquidating. There was 40 guys on the listing. They let everyone in the door. And that's the problem with letting everyone in the door. I like brands that get 5, 6, 7, 8 Amazon guys, then close the doors. Say no more e-com guys. But there's ways around that too. If you flash a 100 grand PO to a brand, that whole no e-com thing goes out the window. At the end of the day, they're a business, they're trying to make money. So they'll kind of disregard the whole, all right, we'll add one more guy. And they slowly add another guy. But they can tell whether you're experienced or not within the first 1 to 2 minutes of the call. Just the language you approach them with and the way you speak will definitely say, all right, this guy's wasting my time, or let me listen to this guy and maybe he has a big order for us. Those are the things that we're focused on, teaching people and stuff like that.
Question for you. You mentioned, I'm not an expert. You said like Oxcom, I think it was, like a big brand. Like
they're a big Amazon seller. Yeah.
You asked this question like, how do you compete against them? Let me ask you a question. How do you compete against them when you're in the same space and they have a limited bankroll and you don't?
Yeah.
How do you compete against them?
And that's where we ask our tier pricing questions, and we kind of focus on listings where our feedback is a lot higher than other sellers. We'll kind of gauge the listing and say, all right, maybe I should be worried about this large seller, but there's a bunch of other smaller sellers below us, so we should get good buy box box rotation. And you're factoring in your quantity buys and how much you should pull trigger on, basically, right? Maybe I'm going to go a little lighter because someone like Eric's on the listing. And I know he's a big guy and he's probably going to hold buy box. These are the analysis and the data we look at to say, all right, how are we going to do this?
You talked about tier pricing, but also you talked about freight. You talked about being local. Is that like a strategy for you where you say, we are really trying to look local because we can visit, build a network, but also get free shipping, for example? I think that's one thing you mentioned. Is that like a USP that you look for?
If it wasn't the case, I'd be in Florida,
Why? Like just the weather?
The weather, the no state income tax. Our reason for being in New Jersey is the relationships we've built here. And those pay dividends. We get huge benefits from free shipping. We get, huge benefits from being able to go into my distributor and hand the sales rep a coffee and kind of be on their radar. It helps big time.
So you're New Jersey based, do you have a warehouse, do you have a team, what does that look like? Do you generally go for more higher volume, kind of lower value items? Would that be more like FMCG, for example, fast moving consumer goods, food, groceries, etc.? Is that the space you go after? Where are you going to be in 1 year? What's the goal? What's the long-term goal? Why are you doing this? What do you look for? Do you think being on social media is worth it as a seller, or do you think it's not worth it?